Recent archaeological discoveries that shocked the world. What do you think would happen if one day archaeologists unearthed a skeleton that could change the history of humankind? Or discovered a cave filled with mysterious handprints that have survived for 27,000 years, yet whose true meaning remains unclear to this day? And perhaps most unsettling of all, what if the secrets buried beneath the earth for thousands of years were telling stories completely different from the ones recorded in history books? Hello, and welcome to Ancient History. My friends, the history of humanity has always been filled with mysteries that continue to spark our curiosity. Even though modern science has made extraordinary advances, there are still archaeological discoveries that leave the world's leading experts puzzled. From ancient human remains belonging to long-lost civilizations, to mass burial sites containing artifacts from many different regions, to strange structures whose true purpose remains unknown, each discovery raises new questions about our past. Every excavation is like a doorway opening into history, revealing secrets that seemed destined to remain buried forever. In today's journey, we will explore some of the most astonishing archaeological discoveries ever found around the world. Some tombs contain dozens of human skeletons that have remained remarkably intact for thousands of years. Some traces left behind by ancient humans have forced scientists to reconsider the story of human evolution. And there are also mysterious artifacts that, even today, no one has been able to explain convincingly. So prepare yourself for an unforgettable journey back through time, because what you are about to see is far more than a series of archaeological excavations. These are ancient secrets that have shocked, amazed, and sometimes even terrified people around the world. And now, without further delay, let's move on to our very first discovery. 200 medieval skeletons buried beneath England's most beautiful beach for more than 1,000 years. Can you believe that beneath the golden sands of one of England's most beautiful beaches lies a massive forgotten cemetery that remained hidden for more than a millennium? It sounds like the plot of an archaeological adventure movie, doesn't it? But surprisingly, it is a real discovery that has forced scientists to race against time for years in an effort to uncover its secrets. The story begins at White Sands Bay, a famous beach located in Pembrokeshire in southwestern Wales. Powerful storms and the natural erosion of the coastline accidentally exposed an ancient secret buried deep beneath the sand dunes. For centuries, no one knew that this area had once served as the final resting place of hundreds of people from the medieval period. Only when nature gradually washed away the protective layers of sand did the first traces of this mysterious burial ground begin to emerge before archaeologists' eyes. When excavations finally began, experts were astonished. Beneath the sandy surface lay approximately 200 human skeletons dating from the 6th through the 11th centuries. In other words, these individuals had rested beneath the earth for more than 1,000 years. But do you know what is even more unsettling? During just 3 weeks of emergency excavation work, researchers were forced to relocate as many as 90 skeletons in order to protect them from coastal erosion and the threat of complete destruction by the sea. Archaeologists believe the site may once have been a trading center for a medieval Christian community. If this theory proves correct, White Sands Bay was not only a beautiful tourist destination, but also a thriving settlement and commercial hub inhabited by people who lived more than 1,000 years ago. Every skeleton recovered is like a missing piece of a historical puzzle long obscured by time. Initial analyses conducted by the University of Sheffield indicate that the remains belong to men, women, and children of various ages. This suggests that the site was not reserved for a particular social group, but may instead have served as the cemetery of an entire community. Even more fascinating, some of the skeletons were buried in stone-lined graves and covered with stone slabs or white quartz pebbles. This was a common burial practice in Western Britain during the medieval period, providing researchers with valuable insights into the beliefs and customs of the people who lived there. To determine the age of the remains, scientists used radiocarbon dating. The results revealed that the cemetery remained in continuous use for several centuries, from the 6th through the 11th centuries. The discovery has also raised the possibility that the burial ground may be connected to St. Patrick's Chapel, an 11th century structure uncovered in the White Sands Bay area in 1924. Yet what excites archaeologists most are the mysteries that still lie hidden beneath the sand. According to experts, in addition to the ancient cemetery, the site contains a mysterious stone structure that may be even older than the graves themselves. What was it? A religious monument? an ancient settlement, or evidence of a long-lost culture? To this day, no one has a definitive answer. And perhaps that is what makes this discovery so extraordinary. Every skeleton brought to light is more than the remains of a person who lived long ago. It is a key to unlocking stories about daily life, diet, ancestry, and the events that unfolded in this region over 1,000 years ago. As the sea continues to wear away the shoreline day and night, scientists remain locked in a race against time. After all, beneath the remaining layers of sand may still lie secrets capable of rewriting part of England's medieval history. 44 ancient tombs, more than 5,500 years old, contain human remains that could rewrite Chinese history. In an area that seemed thoroughly familiar to modern society, archaeologists unexpectedly dug beneath the ground and uncovered dozens of ancient tombs that had remained buried for more than 5,500 years. Even more astonishing was what they found inside. The tombs still contained human remains that were remarkably well preserved, as if time itself had somehow forgotten this place. And this extraordinary discovery is now opening a doorway into one of the earliest chapters of history in southern China. The excavation took place at Jinlin Temple, located in Shitan Town in Guangzhou, China. The site is considered one of the oldest prehistoric locations in the region. For years, it had attracted the attention of researchers because of the ancient traces that remained there. However, no one expected that beneath the temple grounds lay such a valuable archaeological treasure. It took Chinese archaeologists several months of meticulous work to complete the excavation of approximately 8,600 square feet of land at the site. One discovery after another soon emerged, drawing the attention of the scientific community. In total, 44 ancient tombs were uncovered. These were not isolated graves scattered across the landscape, but an entire burial complex, reflecting a history that spanned multiple periods. Research revealed that most of the tombs date back more than 5,500 years. Among them, 42 belong to the late Neolithic period, roughly between 5,000 and 3,500 BC. The remaining 2 tombs date to the Warring States period, a turbulent era in Chinese history that lasted from 475 to 221 BC. This indicates that the Jinlin Temple area was used by humans continuously for thousands of years, from prehistoric times through the development of ancient Chinese civilization. Yet what excited scientists most was not merely the number of tombs discovered. During the excavation, researchers carefully cleaned and examined 35 of the graves and uncovered a total of 34 human skeletons. Each skeleton is like a history book waiting to be decoded, carrying valuable information about the lives of people who existed thousands of years ago. According to Yi Xibing, head of the Guangzhou Institute of Cultural Heritage and Archaeology, most of the human remains were preserved in relatively intact condition. This is an extremely rare occurrence not only in the Pearl River Delta region, but throughout the Lingnan area as a whole. Normally, after spending thousands of years underground and being exposed to environmental and climatic effects, skeletons are severely damaged or survive only as scattered fragments. At Jinlin, however, many of the remains retained much of their original structure, creating ideal conditions for in-depth scientific study. And it is through these ancient skeletons that researchers hope to reconstruct the lives of the region's earliest inhabitants. By analyzing bone morphology, dental structures, conducting paleobiological studies, and especially decoding ancient DNA, scientists can investigate the origins of the people who once lived there. The data collected may help answer major questions regarding ancient migration patterns, the formation of the earliest communities, and the development of populations throughout the Pearl River Delta region. The giant jar containing 2,000-year-old human remains on a Mediterranean island. Have you ever imagined that a jar used to store wine, olive oil, or salt could become someone's final resting place for thousands of years? Probably not. Yet that is exactly what archaeologists recently discovered on a beautiful island in the Mediterranean Sea. What makes this discovery even more remarkable is that the excavation was originally conducted as a routine survey before a construction project began. No one expected it would uncover an ancient cemetery filled with so many secrets. The story begins in the town of Ile-Rousse on the island of Corsica, a region famous for its stunning coastlines and rich history. For many years, this area was not considered a major archaeological hotspot. Very few ancient traces had been found around Ile-Rousse, leading researchers to believe that the ground beneath it likely held few significant secrets. For that reason, when archaeologists were sent to survey the site before construction, they expected to find only a handful of minor clues about past human activity. However, the deeper they dug, the more surprising the discoveries became. Experts from the French National Institute for Preventive Archaeological Research uncovered an ancient cemetery located behind the town's church. Beneath what appeared to be ordinary soil lay more than 40 graves dating back to the middle of the first millennium AD. With each new discovery, the research team realized that this land held far more untold stories than anyone had imagined. In fact, the first signs of the site had appeared as early as 2019, when a preliminary survey uncovered evidence of more than a dozen ancient burial areas. However, it was not until the most recent excavations, which began in February, that archaeologists were able to focus their efforts on the two areas considered the most promising. And it was there that they uncovered an especially fascinating detail. At first, researchers assumed that the ancient inhabitants had been buried in the usual manner, inside coffins or stone graves. But as the excavation continued, they discovered that most of the human remains were actually placed inside large two-handled ceramic jars. These jars had never been intended for burial purposes. In ancient times, they served as containers for transporting valuable goods. Between the 4th and 7th centuries AD, large quantities of products from Carthage, located in what is now Tunisia, were shipped to Corsica in jars like these. Wine, olive oil, and salt were among the goods most frequently purchased by local residents from Carthaginian merchants. After completing their role in transporting merchandise, the jars were not discarded. Instead, they were reused in a completely different way, as final resting places for the deceased. The discoveries did not end there. Archaeologists also uncovered several stone tombs reinforced with terracotta materials. According to preliminary assessments, these may have been roofing tiles or construction materials commonly used in ancient Greek and Roman architecture. This detail suggests that Corsica may have been strongly influenced by some of the Mediterranean's greatest civilizations in the past. Researchers from INRAP now emphasize that this discovery is only the beginning. Additional archaeological and anthropological studies will continue at Île Rousse in the coming years. It is entirely possible that beneath the layers of soil that have yet to be excavated, there are still secrets waiting to be uncovered, secrets that could reshape our understanding of the long and complex history of Corsica, this remarkable island in the heart of the Mediterranean. So let's wait and see what new discoveries future excavations may reveal. The 1,300-year-old skeleton of a Maya envoy and the painful secret hidden behind his glory. People often say that history remembers only great achievements and the individuals who shaped major events. But sometimes it is the silent skeletons buried beneath the earth that tell us stories more truthful than any written record. More than 1,300 years ago, in the heart of the magnificent Maya civilization, there lived a man who was deeply trusted by kings. He came from a noble family, held an important position, and carried out a mission that could influence the fate of an entire kingdom. From the outside, anyone would have assumed that his life was filled with honor, power, and prestige. Yet when archaeologists discovered his final resting place more than a millennium later, the evidence preserved in his bones revealed a very different story. The story begins at El Palmar, an ancient Maya city hidden among the dense forests of what is now Mexico. During an excavation led by archaeologist Kenichiro Tsukamoto and his colleagues, researchers uncovered an ancient staircase decorated with intricate hieroglyphic inscriptions. The staircase led to a special ceremonial platform where important rituals of the Maya elite once took place. As experts deciphered the inscriptions carved into the stone, a mysterious figure gradually emerged from the past. His name was Ajpach. According to ancient records, in June of 726 AD, Wall undertook a journey of more than 350 miles to meet the king of the city of Copan. But he was not traveling on personal business. He was serving as an envoy representing the king of Calakmul, one of the most powerful states in the Maya world at the time. Wall's mission was extremely important. He had been entrusted with establishing an alliance between two major kingdoms. This was not merely a routine diplomatic visit. It was an event that could determine the political future of the entire region. Ajpach seemed destined for such a role. His father had held a similar position, while his mother came from a noble lineage. From childhood, he had been prepared to become an influential figure within Maya society. And perhaps the greatest achievement of his life was the successful completion of that diplomatic mission. Just a few months after the alliance was secured, in September of 726 AD, a special ceremonial platform was constructed in his honor. In Maya society, this was an exceptionally rare distinction. Only individuals who had made extraordinary contributions received such recognition. But the real story began when archaeologists continued excavating beneath the temple located beside that ceremonial platform. Directly beneath the temple floor, they discovered a tomb placed in a position of honor. Based on its age, location, and the surrounding inscriptions, researchers believe that the skeleton inside very likely belonged to Ashpachwal himself. What surprised them was that the tomb contained none of the lavish treasures commonly found in Maya noble burials. There were no jade masks, no expensive jewelry, and no rare luxury items. Beside the deceased were only two relatively simple painted ceramic vessels. Yet it was the skeleton itself that told the most remarkable story. Analysis revealed that the man died between the ages of 35 and 50. Holes had been drilled into his upper front teeth to hold pyrite and jade decorations, a clear indication of high social status. The back of his skull had been intentionally flattened during childhood, a common Maya practice because it was considered a standard of beauty. However, behind these signs of nobility lay extensive evidence of illness and suffering. His arm bones showed signs of periostitis, an inflammatory condition that can cause chronic pain. His skull also displayed indicators of disease or nutritional stress during childhood. The final years of his life appear to have been even more difficult. He had lost several teeth on the left side of his lower jaw as a result of severe periodontal disease. Another tooth suffered from a serious abscess, making eating extremely painful. For a long period before his death, he may have been able to eat only soft foods. Researchers also discovered evidence of arthritis in his hands, right elbow, left knee, left ankle, and feet. This means that pain may have accompanied him through every step he took and nearly every activity of daily life. Sadly, Ashpachwal's greatest achievement did not endure for long. Only about 10 years after the alliance was established, the king of Kopan was defeated and beheaded by a vassal ruler. During the same period, Kalakmul was also destroyed by a rival power. These two major events plunged the region into political and economic instability. After Wal's death, people continued to live at El Palmar for some time. Eventually, however, the city was abandoned. Its structures were swallowed by the jungle, and the memory of those who once lived there gradually faded into history. More than 1,300 years later, as archaeologists carefully peeled back the layers of earth and stone, the story of the Maya envoy was finally told once again. And perhaps what makes this story so remarkable is not the alliances he helped create, but the realization that behind the fame, power, and historical accomplishments was an ordinary human being. Someone who struggled with illness, endured pain, and faced the hardships of life just like any one of us today. The 3,500-year-old tomb filled with artifacts from across the ancient world. We often think of an ancient tomb as nothing more than a final resting place for the dead. But sometimes, beneath layers of earth and stone that have lain undisturbed for thousands of years, there are stories waiting to be told. Stories about civilizations that were connected on a scale few people would ever imagine. And that is exactly what happened on the island of Cyprus, where archaeologists unexpectedly discovered a communal burial site filled with treasures originating from many different regions of the ancient world. The story began in 2017, when researchers conducted a large-scale survey east of the ancient city of Hala Sultan-Teki. Rather than immediately excavating the area, they first used modern technology, including ground-penetrating radar and magnetometers, to investigate what lay beneath the surface. The results astonished the entire team. Deep underground, they detected large empty spaces displaying unusual characteristics, as though they concealed structures that had been buried for centuries. As researchers analyzed the data more closely, they realized these underground voids were not random at all. They appeared to lead to ancient passageways and burial chambers hidden beneath the earth. At that point, a research team led by Professor Peter Fischer and Dr. Teresa Berge of Sweden's University of Gothenburg began excavations. With each layer of soil removed, another piece of the past emerged. To date, archaeologists have uncovered 52 human skeletons within the tomb complex. Each set of remains represents an unfinished story from more than 3,500 years ago. Among them, researchers were particularly interested in the remains of a woman estimated to have been between 30 and 40 years old. Resting on her chest was an ivory ornamental button, positioned as though the burial ceremony had taken place only yesterday. DNA samples were also collected in hopes of uncovering more information about the origins and lives of the people who once lived there. Yet what truly amazed scientists was not merely the number of skeletons discovered. Surrounding the deceased was an extraordinary collection of valuable artifacts originating from multiple civilizations. Each object was like an ancient passport, telling the story of trade routes that stretched thousands of miles across the Mediterranean. One of the most remarkable finds was an ancient Egyptian scarab amulet. Inscribed on its surface were hieroglyphs carved around 1350 BC. To the ancient Egyptians, scarabs symbolized rebirth and eternal life. The presence of such an object in a tomb on Cyprus demonstrates an astonishing connection between two civilizations separated by hundreds of miles. The discoveries did not stop there. Archaeologists also uncovered an ancient seal originating from Babylon, dating to approximately 1800 to 1600 BC. The seal was intricately carved with images depicting gods, humans, and animals. Not only is this a rare artifact, but it also serves as evidence that cultural influences from Mesopotamia once reached as far as the island of Cyprus. However, the object that attracted the most attention was a vessel standing approximately 16 inches tall, imported from Greece around 1400 BC. The vessel was decorated with extraordinary craftsmanship and intricate designs, the most striking of which was an artistically rendered ram's head. According to researchers, this vessel was likely used in funeral-related religious ceremonies. What makes it truly exceptional is that no similar artifact has ever been discovered anywhere else in the world. In other words, it may be a one-of-a-kind object surviving from the Bronze Age. As more artifacts were recovered, archaeologists became increasingly convinced that this site was far more than an ordinary tomb. The presence of the unique vessel, along with numerous valuable grave goods, suggests that the structure may once have served as a sacred location for the entire community. It may have been a place where religious rituals were performed, where ceremonies honoring the dead took place, or where important spiritual practices of the ancient population were conducted. Perhaps most importantly, the large number of artifacts originating from distant regions has revealed the significant role that Hala Sultan Teki played in history. 1.4 million-year-old skeleton belonging to a mysterious human species never before identified. You know, the world of archaeology is truly fascinating. Some discoveries help us better understand a few details about the past, but others are so significant that they force the entire scientific community to reconsider what they once believed to be true. And the ancient skeleton recently discovered in a cave in Spain is exactly that kind of discovery. Just imagine, what would happen if scientists one day found evidence that the earliest ancestors to set foot in Europe were not who we have always been taught they were? What if, deep beneath the earth, among rock layers that have existed for more than 1 million years, there were still traces of an ancient human group that humanity had never known about? Those are precisely the questions captivating researchers around the world following a groundbreaking discovery in the Atapuerca Mountains, located in Spain's Burgos province. This is no ordinary archaeological site. For decades, Atapuerca has been regarded as one of the most valuable sources of information about human evolution. The layers of soil and rock found there are like the pages of a massive ancient book, preserving evidence left behind by our ancestors from hundreds of thousands to millions of years ago. The focus of this latest discovery lies within a cave known as Cima del Elefante. Scientists estimate that the sediment layers within the cave date from approximately 1.1 to 1.4 million years ago. In other words, they were formed during the period when some of the earliest human groups began expanding beyond Africa in search of new lands. During excavations, researchers uncovered ancient human remains buried deep within the cave's oldest layers. What makes this discovery especially remarkable is that the remains were not merely a few scattered bone fragments, as is often the case with ancient fossils. Instead, researchers recovered approximately 80% of the left side of an adult individual's face. The remains include parts of the cheekbone, upper jaw, and several important structures of the nasal region. To most people, these might appear to be nothing more than fossilized bones. But to paleoanthropologists, it is like discovering a lost portrait from more than 1,000,000 years ago. Every contour of the skull and every detail of the facial bones can provide crucial clues about the identity of the individual to whom they belonged. After applying a wide range of modern analytical techniques and conducting extensive archaeological research, scientists began noticing something unusual. The characteristics of the skull did not entirely match those of fossils previously discovered in the region. For many years, researchers believed that Homo antecessor was one of the earliest human groups to inhabit Western Europe. However, the new evidence from Cima del Elefante suggests that these remains share more characteristics with Homo erectus. Of course, this remains only a hypothesis for now, but if the conclusion is ultimately confirmed, it would represent an extraordinarily important discovery. Homo erectus is widely considered one of the most successful human species in evolutionary history. They were among the first humans to leave Africa and expand into many other parts of the world. And now, it is possible that they were actually the earliest inhabitants of Western Europe, arriving much earlier than previous theories suggested. Yet the story does not end there. Some researchers believe the remains may even represent an ancient human lineage that has never been identified before. The combination of familiar features and unusual characteristics found in the fossilized face has prevented experts from reaching a final conclusion. And that uncertainty is precisely what makes this discovery so exciting. Imagine the feeling of archaeologists as they carefully removed layer after layer of soil and rock, gradually realizing that they were looking at the face of a being who lived more than 1,000,000 years ago. An individual who existed in a world completely different from our own, a time when humanity was still taking its earliest steps along its long evolutionary journey. According to paleoanthropologist Maria Martinon Torres of the National Research Center on Human Evolution, this is the first time scientists have discovered what may be Homo erectus remains in such unexpectedly deep layers within this cave. That finding is raising entirely new questions about the timing, migration routes, and expansion of early human ancestors throughout Europe. Every archaeological discovery is like a piece of an enormous puzzle depicting the origins of humanity, and sometimes, a single bone fragment is enough to change the entire picture. The ancient remains discovered in Cima del Elefante may prove to be exactly that kind of discovery. Not only could they help us better understand the people who lived more than 1,000,000 years ago, but they also serve as a reminder that the story of human evolution still contains countless secrets buried deep beneath the earth, waiting to be uncovered. The ancient three-circle structure in France that left archaeologists astonished. Some archaeological discoveries amaze people because of their age, but others are so unusual that even scientists find themselves saying, "We've never seen anything like this before." And that is exactly the situation unfolding in eastern France. In the peaceful countryside near the city of Dijon, at a site called Marliennes, archaeologists uncovered not just an ancient monument, but an extraordinary structure made up of 3 interconnected circular formations. At first glance, that may not sound particularly remarkable, but once researchers began studying it, they realized this could be one of the most unique archaeological discoveries ever found in France. The story began when the French National Institute for Preventive Archaeological Research conducted an excavation in the area ahead of a local development project. Initially, the team expected to find only a few traces of ancient human activity, much like at many other sites. Instead, as layer after layer of soil was removed, a completely unusual layout gradually emerged. The first feature to appear was a large circular enclosure at the center of the site, measuring nearly 33 feet in diameter. This was the largest structure within the entire complex. However, what caught the attention of experts even more was the presence of 2 smaller structures connected directly to the central circle, clearly forming part of a single overall design. To the north was a horseshoe-shaped enclosure nearly 26 feet long, linked to the central circle by a distinct connecting passage. To the south was an even smaller circular feature, also connected to the main structure. Viewed from above, the entire complex resembles a mysterious symbol intentionally created by ancient builders rather than 3 unrelated pits that happen to appear in the same location. Archaeologists believe all 3 structures were built during the same period and were closely related in their design. In other words, These were not separate constructions erected at different times. Instead, they appear to have been conceived as a unified complex from the very beginning. What makes the site even more intriguing is that it contains evidence of human activity spanning from the Neolithic period through the early Iron Age. That means people used and visited this location for thousands of years. Yet the true purpose of the three-circle structure remains one of its greatest mysteries. During the excavation, researchers also uncovered numerous artifacts within the ditches surrounding the complex. Among them were 7 flint arrowheads, 2 archers' wrist guards, a flint fire-starting tool, and a dagger made from a copper alloy. These objects suggest that the site was associated with important activities within the prehistoric community, possibly involving hunting, rituals, defense, or some other special form of gathering. In addition, archaeologists discovered a layer of gravel running along both sides of the complex. This detail led them to propose that the entire site may once have been enclosed by a fence or another type of boundary structure. If that interpretation is correct, the area may have served as a sacred space or a location reserved for special community activities. What puzzles researchers the most is that they have found no comparable structure anywhere else in the archaeological record of France. There is no identical design, no clear parallel site for comparison, and no widely accepted explanation for its function. For that reason, the French National Institute for Preventive Archaeological Research has described the discovery as unprecedented. So the question remains, more than 5,000 years ago, why did prehistoric people invest so much effort in digging ditches, arranging gravel, constructing boundaries, and creating such a complex structure? Were they marking a sacred place, a ceremonial center, or perhaps a symbol of power for their community? At this point, no one can say for certain, but mysteries like this are exactly what make archaeology so fascinating. Because sometimes what astonishes us is not gold, silver, or hidden treasure. Instead, it is the realization that ancient people thought, built, and left their mark on the world in ways that modern humans still do not fully understand. 65 mysterious handprints in a 27,000-year-old underwater cave. If you see a handprint on a rock wall, you probably wouldn't think much of it. But what if there were 65 handprints inside the same cave and most of them were missing fingers? Would you still consider it normal? Probably not. And that is exactly what has puzzled archaeologists for many years. These mysterious handprints were discovered in an ancient cave located beneath the sea off the coast of Marseille, France. They have been preserved for around 27,000 years, dating back to a time when our ancestors were still surviving in the freezing climate of the Ice Age. And even today, no one truly knows what message the people who left these handprints intended to communicate. The story began with an unexpected discovery by divers. While exploring the waters off the coast of Marseille, they found a small entrance leading to a hidden underwater cave system. This site later became known as Cosquer Cave, one of the most extraordinary archaeological sites ever discovered in Europe. Unlike typical archaeological caves located on land, Cosquer Cave is almost completely isolated by the sea. To reach its interior, researchers must pass through a submerged and extremely challenging underwater tunnel. Ironically, this difficult location helped protect its ancient traces from modern human interference for tens of thousands of years. When the first surveys were carried out, scientists quickly realized they were standing in front of an invaluable archaeological treasure. The cave walls are covered with a wide range of prehistoric paintings and engravings. Some of these artworks have been dated to more than 27,000 years ago, making them among the rare surviving examples of Upper Paleolithic art. These images span multiple prehistoric periods, including the Gravettian and Solitrian cultures. This shows that Cosquer Cave was not used for a short period of time, but rather played an important role for many generations of prehistoric humans over thousands of years. However, among all the ancient artwork, what drew the most attention from researchers were the handprints on the cave walls. In total, 65 handprints were found, made using red and black pigments. At first glance, they look like ordinary impressions left by ancient humans. But upon closer inspection, scientists noticed something extremely unusual. Most of the handprints are incomplete. Some show only 3 fingers, others are missing 1 or 2 fingers, and some appear to be missing multiple fingers entirely. This immediately raised a series of questions. Did ancient people actually lose their fingers? Or were they intentionally folding their fingers while making the prints? Could this be some kind of secret symbol or spiritual ritual? To this day, there is no definitive answer. Some experts believe these may have been a form of symbolic communication used by prehistoric people. Others think the handprints reflect cultural traditions or ritual practices that have been lost over time. This mystery is what makes Coscar Cave one of the most fascinating archaeological sites in the world. Beyond the puzzling handprints, the cave also preserves an extraordinary collection of prehistoric art. The walls feature vivid depictions of horses, deer, bison, and aurochs. Interwoven among them are geometric symbols such as dots, lines, and crosses, carefully engraved into the rock. Even more remarkably, there are also representations of marine life. Archaeologists have discovered images of seals, penguins, jellyfish, and even whales. These subjects are extremely rare in prehistoric cave art. They suggest that the people who once visited Coscar Cave had a close relationship with the sea and spent a significant amount of time observing the marine world around them. Archaeological evidence also indicates that Coscar Cave was used continuously for around 8,000 years. This period also marks a crucial turning point in human history, when Homo sapiens gradually replaced Neanderthals across Europe. In other words, these mysterious handprints and ancient paintings were created during a time of major transformation in human evolution. Today, nearly 27,000 years later, those handprints still remain on the cave walls like messages from a vanished world. Who did they belong to? Why are so many fingers missing in the prints? And what message were these prehistoric artists trying to leave for the future? Perhaps the answers are still hidden somewhere in the darkness of Coscar Cave, waiting for the day they are finally uncovered and understood. The underground city of prehistoric people, the largest ancient mining complex in Europe. When people think of prehistoric humans, they often imagine small groups living in caves, using primitive tools, and struggling to survive in the harsh natural world. But what if we discovered that more than 6,000 years ago, our ancestors had already built an enormous underground mining system deep beneath the earth? And even more astonishing, what if that system was not used for just a few generations, but continuously operated for thousands of years? In the limestone hills of Spiën in present-day Belgium, beneath peaceful fields and rolling green landscapes, lies an entirely different world. It is a massive ancient underground network, considered the largest and oldest prehistoric flint mining complex ever discovered in Europe. For thousands of years, this site served as a production center for Neolithic communities, helping shape the daily lives of thousands of ancient people. What astonishes archaeologists most is its scale. The Spiennes flint mining system covers an underground area of approximately 250 acres. Imagine this. In a time with no machines, no engines, and no modern tools, humans were still able to dig deep underground and create an extensive system of tunnels and extraction zones across such a vast area. That alone is a remarkable testament to the organization and labor skills of prehistoric societies. According to researchers, mining activity at Spiennes began around 4000 BC. This was a period when humans were gradually transitioning from hunting and gathering to more settled, stable communities. In that context, flint was one of the most valuable resources. Today we rely on steel, alloys, and advanced materials. But thousands of years ago, flint was humanity's high technology. From this stone, prehistoric people could create knives, axes, spearheads, hunting tools, and many essential everyday objects. What is especially remarkable is that mining at Spiennes was not a short-lived activity. Archaeological evidence shows that the site was used continuously for centuries, finally coming to an end around 750 BC. This means that many generations of people inherited, maintained, and expanded mining operations here over thousands of years. Although the site dates back to prehistoric times, it was not until the 19th century that modern society began to recognize its true significance. The first traces were discovered in 1840, but at the time, the find did not attract much attention. It was not until 1847, when a railway line was constructed through the area, that the true scale of the mining system was revealed. Reports were quickly sent to the Royal Academy of Belgium, but it took several more decades before archaeologists officially began systematic research. In 1912, the first large-scale excavations were launched. These studies continued from 1912 to 1914 and later resumed in multiple phases until the mid-20th century. As excavations deepened, archaeologists uncovered increasingly important evidence about prehistoric life. A wide range of artifacts was brought to the surface, including massive flint blocks, mining tools, pottery, and later metal objects from subsequent periods. These discoveries show that Spiens was not simply a raw material extraction site. It was also clear evidence of early human technological development. Ancient people were not only resourceful in finding materials, but also skilled in organizing labor, crafting tools, and efficiently utilizing what nature provided. Flint extracted from the mines was processed into various tools for daily life and production. My friends, through the discoveries we have explored, we may begin to realize that history is not only what is written in books. Beneath the earth, in forgotten caves and ancient tombs that are thousands of years old, there are still countless secrets waiting to be revealed. Every skeleton, every artifact, and every ancient trace is a piece of a larger puzzle that helps us better understand the origins of humanity. And who knows, even right now, somewhere in the world, a new archaeological discovery may be on the verge of changing everything we think we know about the past. So, which discovery impressed you the most? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to Ancient History. And now goodbye and see you next time.